Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the magnificent Monday edition of the Yard. Busy weekend for the Bulldogs, but tonight will be the national championship game. I know you guys are excited about that. Alabama and Georgia. Who are you picking? I'd like to see Georgia win, but it's difficult to pull against Nick Saban. I mean, it honestly is. I don't mean like from a favorite standpoint, but it's from when you begin to look at it and say, Georgia has great culture within their football program. But Kirby Smart and the culture of Georgia are about to take on the greatest culture in the history of the game. It's as simple as that. Doesn't matter how many assistant coaches come and go. Doesn't matter how many players hit the transfer portal. As long as St. Nick is there, he's always going to deliver. That's just how it works. But I think it'd be good for the game of college football to see Georgia win. They hadn't had a national championship since, 1980? But, Georgia's been one of those teams that has consistently been, right there. We talk a lot about, consistency and things of that nature. And that's what Georgia has really been, even in the Mark Richt years. I mean, they couldn't get over the Tennessee hump for a while. And it's like if they could beat Tennessee and Florida, they'd find a way to lose to somebody they shouldn't. But, the reality of it is that, they're facing the machine. Pretty simple. And, as Nick Saban assistant coaches have not done exceptionally well against him. Looking at the Kirby Smart years, the very first year, Kirby Smart was 8-5. And a lot of people said, yep, it's going to be a step back, man. They went to the Liberty Bowl. And they won the Liberty Bowl. They had a 7-5 regular season, 4-4 in the SEC, and people are like, it's a bad hire. The very next year, they win the East. They go 7-1 in the SEC, 13-2, play in an AFL championship game. They lose. 18 again, they win the East, 7-1 in the SEC, 11-3 overall. They lose the Sugar Bowl. If I remember correctly, they got beat down pretty good. Didn't take a step back in 19. They win the East again, 7-1 in the league, 12-2 overall. They win the Sugar Bowl and end the year with a number 4 ranking. Last year, 8-2 against a 10-game SEC schedule. They go 7-2, finish second in the East behind Florida and Dan Mullen. They win the Peach Bowl and end up with a number 7 ranking. So no matter how things shake out tonight, Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs, 5 consecutive top 10 rankings and 2 national championship game appearances over the course of the last 5 seasons. That's getting it done. It is. And you look, historically, just look back at Mark Richt. Mark Richt had more double digits winning seasons than he didn't at the University of Georgia. Had difficulty getting over the hump. I guess he wins the East, 4 or 5 times. But consistently, a top 20 type team. Back in 2009, they went 8-5, went to Independence Bowl. In 2010, they had a losing record. And you got to go back several years to think about Georgia having back-to-back losing years. Mark Richt was 145-51. His final 2 seasons at Georgia, 10-3. Won his last 2 bowl games. And people said, he can't get over the hump. And he couldn't. There were some years they finished 3rd, but that's the deal. They never finished less than 3rd in the SEC East under Mark Richt, even in rebuilding years. I mentioned about the back-to-back losing seasons. Yeah, you got to go back a long way. This is a language that we don't really speak here at Mississippi State. Even back in the early 70s, even when it was a bad year, it wasn't a losing year. They had 5-5, 5-1 back-to-back years, so they had a couple 500 years. You got to go all the way back to 1962 and 1963 to find back-to-back losing seasons by the Georgia Bulldogs. That's impressive. Now, of course, Johnny Griffith had 3 very forgetful years in Athens, 10-16-4 record. Never won more than 4 games. And Vince Dooley got there, and Vince went to work. Vince Dooley never had more than 1 losing season back-to-back years. In fact, he only had 1 losing season his end-time tenure at Georgia. And you begin to think, too, Georgia should always really be a national power. They are the preeminent program within their state, have one of the greatest college towns in the country in Athens, Georgia. But Vince Dooley is the one that really put Georgia on the map. Ray Goff comes in and is just, above average, kind of back and forth. Georgia was a team that didn't consistently compete for anything of significance. Just 2 top 20 finishes under Ray Goff from 89 to 95. His final season was a 6-6 year, 6-5 regular season, 3-5 in the league. They lose the Peach Bowl, and Ray Goff is out. They bring in Jim Donnan. Donnan, first year, 5-6, and again, it's about culture. Got to turn things around. Well, they do in year 2. 10-2, 6-2 in the league, finishing in the top 10. Donnan, 4 consecutive years, ranked in the top 20. But he couldn't beat the rivalry schools. So he's out. They go 10-2, 9-3, 8-4, 8-4. And again, that's kind of hey, if that happened here at Mississippi State, we'd be overjoyed. Georgia, there's a different level of expectation. Vince Dooley kind of showed them, hey, we can compete and do some big things. Then Mark Richt comes in, of course, and Mark Richt again, looking at the numbers here, again, just one losing season. It's remarkable to see what's happened at Georgia, and again, it goes back to culture. What's interesting too about Georgia is, like, you would think, well, it's Georgia, they got all these resources. Well, here's the deal, why aren't they dominant in other sports? But football is definitely their brand. We've talked about this before, about how we've always kind of considered Georgia baseball kind of annual and perennial underachievers in college baseball. What's interesting about that, too, we've been to Omaha several times, right? They have been to Omaha 6 times in their history. Just 6. Prior to Scott Strickland getting there, they hadn't really had a whole lot. They got there in 2000. He got there, in 2014? Been in a tournament a couple times, puts together great pitching, but they have not been a great team. And they won an AFL championship in 1990, and that was just the second time in their history they had won a regional. So 1 AFL championship, 1 College World Series runner-up. That's the same thing we got. But when you get a little deeper into this and you realize that, looking at the NCAA tournament appearances here, 14, they've made the NCAA tournament just 14 times. It's pretty crazy. Let's talk about Georgia basketball. That's pretty crazy, too. You would think, man, how in the world can Georgia be that close to Atlanta and not be a dominant basketball program? I'm sure their fans are wondering the same thing. Again, they have made the Final Four 1 time. Who does that remind you of? That's us, 1996. They've been to the Sweet 16 twice. So have we. What's even crazier is when you start counting all these appearances and look at their NCAA tournament record, they've only won a first-round game 4 times. They've won the conference regular season championship twice in their history. We get here a little bit deeper into the schedule here and look at the coaches they've had. It's pretty incredible to think about, the fact that they have not done a good job here in recent years. They just haven't. Tom Crean, of course, that was a huge hire. He's out at Indiana. He goes to the University of Georgia, 11-21, 16-16, 14-12, 5-10. Struggling in a major way. It's pretty crazy to look at all this. You think, man, Georgia's this and Georgia's that. Georgia is a football school, period. Joni Mitchell's done a good job over there on the women's side, but again, not anything of real note you look at and say, you know what, they've been a dominant program. They just simply haven't been. So football is where it's at for those folks, and they get a chance to play for an AFL championship tonight. But it is interesting. I mean, it's like we get so acutely aware of what happens at Mississippi State. I think if you're a Georgia fan, you got to feel a little bit dissatisfied. They just changed athletic directors early, I guess about a year ago now. But my point being is that when you look at the collective health over the last couple of decades that athletic department, it really hadn't been that strong. But it's kind of masked by the success in football, because in this part of the country, football is king. We're a baseball school playing in a football crazy environment. And so we think, hey, well, they ought to be pretty good. Well, they're not always pretty good, but they are in football. And so, again, for that reason, I think about those Georgia fans, and they are truly committed to football. There's no doubt about it. They are very much a rabid fan base. That administration's very committed to football. You'd like to see that rewarded. You know what I'm saying? Especially when a program has the kind of culture that they have. They have a winning culture. It's been a healthy culture. You don't hear about them getting in a bunch of trouble. I mean, you did with Jim Herrick in basketball, but you don't hear about Georgia, in the crosshairs of the NCAA very often. So either they're running a pristine program or they're really good at hiding their stuff, or maybe a combination of both. But I just share that with you because I think it's important. I remember how much we wanted a national championship in baseball, and of course, we'd never had one in anything. They'd had one in a couple sports. But I like to see a little parity in the game. I'd love to see Georgia win. That's who I'll be pulling for. And the reality of it is, it doesn't really matter who I'm pulling for. I have no impact on the game. That's one thing that I laugh when I see all the people getting upset on Facebook. Well, you should be pulling for so-and-so. It doesn't matter. It absolutely does not matter, who we're pulling for. It's like I get so tickled when, some state people are upset with Ole Miss fans that weren't pulling for us in the College World Series. I wouldn't pull for them either. And then other people are almost, hey, we're pulling for y'all. Well, yeah, that's really cute, but I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's not like there's this collective, positivity front that's going to roll in on the team and say, well, hey, we probably weren't going to win today, but we've got all these rival fans pulling for us. Maybe that'll be the difference. No, it's never the case. We kind of delude ourselves in thinking that somehow we have some impact on the game, but we don't. But for what it's worth, I'd really like to see Georgia win. So let's enjoy that tonight. Last college football game, for a long time. Of course, these all-star games don't really mean anything. So this is the last college football game of significance for the better part of 8 months. I guess we'll get started, late August. But, that's one thing, too. I don't imagine that I could be a fan of some other schools that you don't, it's like we don't have always the highest of highs in football. We've had some big moments this year. Of course, road wins at Auburn and A&M, and those are significant. There were games that many of us didn't expect to win. We win those games. And so, it's great. College football was fun. Wasn't as fun as we wanted it to be, but probably funner than most people expected it to be. But then all of a sudden we get done with college football and we're like, hey, man, we're like 5 weeks away from college baseball season. We've been waiting all year for this. We're not even done celebrating a national championship, so you've got that to look forward to. We've also got some basketball stuff we're going to talk about on today's show. I know you're excited about that. And I'm really, really excited about today's top 10 list. Really, really excited about today's top 10 list. This is one of my own. We're going to knock out some of your requests this week. And Elton John didn't do really well. Stevie Wonder did exceptional. Excited about that. Had a lot of requests for both. But the Elton John list did not do well. Stevie Wonder, outstanding. Not top 10, Roy tells me, but really, really significant. Over 14,000. That's pretty impressive, right? That's really impressive. Appreciate you guys' support of the top 10 list. Let's thank our good friends at Bulldog Burger Company. I really want to get in there this week. I've kind of been, jonesing a little bit. It's like when you begin to think, you kind of get a craving for something. And I'm thinking, hey, I think I want to get in there and have the freshman 15. I'm thinking, well, if I'm going to go, maybe I want to get this. And, sometimes I get those sliders, those Sloppy Joe sliders, which are outstanding. Sometimes I don't want to overeat. It's like they put a plate of food in front of me. I'm going to try to eat as much of it as I can. And sometimes, especially at lunch, the lunch rush, I get those sliders because they're very nutritious and they're full of protein and they're very tasty. And I don't get too full and sluggish the rest of the day. And if I'm going for dinner, I'm going to get my money's worth because I'm going to eat, and I'm going to sleep good on a full stomach. You will too. I love Bulldog Burger Company, and I don't know many people that don't share my same enthusiasm for this organization. There are 3 great locations to serve you. The first one right here at University Drive in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, and the brand new one, Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Flowood area. Go by and check them out. You'll be glad you did. Have the spring rolls as your appetizer. That'll make you and everybody around you better looking, and we all need more of that, especially as we age. Kind of like the Dream On song. Every time I look in the mirror, these lines in my face getting clearer. I need to go have some more spring rolls. It's like the fountain of youth. So go check them out today. Get that chocolate shake to go. You'll be glad you did. If you don't want to get a dessert and get it in the car, maybe eat the Shipwich Donuts bread pudding. Kind of a unique take on a Southern classic delicacy. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet. MEAT. All right, let's talk men's hoops. We may not want to, but we're going to. The men lose a ball game at Oxford. And here's the deal, man. This is the thing that gets me. Here's the deal. This was not a good Ole Miss team. It's one thing for us to lose the first game in a series. We almost always do. But we really played poorly in that first half. And we get out to, a 7-5 lead. And the next thing you know, they go on like a 10-0 run and basically controlled the game the majority of the first half. They had scored their season high. First half scoring was 43. They put up 50 against us. One of the things that really irritates me too is, we see that 1-3-1 defense all the time, and it's like we don't know what to do. It's like we know that it's coming at some point. And give Kermit Davis some credit. He's a good coach. He knows that we can't handle it. And then just when we begin to make a run, they go to the 1-3-1, create some turnovers, and again gain some separation in the game. We win the second half 36-32. We made a run a couple times and cut it under double digits. But to be honest with you, every time we did, it seemed like Ole Miss was able to stretch it right back out. So give them credit. They outplayed us. I didn't think our kids quit. And dare I say, I think we got outcoached a little bit in this ball game. Dare I say it. But we did. And this is a team, Ole Miss team was like in the net at 120. And our net was like 39. And so forget the fact that it's a rivalry game. Forget that. This is an Ole Miss team that has been up and down. We talked about that in our preview back on Friday. They play good one game, and then they don't play good the next. You can say, well, Steve, we didn't have Tolu. That's true. They didn't have their leading scorer either. Jarkel Joyner played just 6 minutes of action, didn't attempt a shot, and they still put up 82 points on us. And I've read some of the social media commentary. It's like, when you got a guy like that, like Matthew Morrell, that's just on fire like that, there's nothing you can do. Well, you're wrong. I know that sounds fun to say, and it's good to make an excuse, I guess. And I know, listen, we all love Mississippi State, but I think it's okay for us to be honest. And there's sometimes, too, some people take honesty and they mistake that for negativity. And then the flip side of that is there's some people that are so incredibly miserable, they think everything they say is correct. But this is a ball game we should have won. We didn't. We didn't win the game. And it really exposed some things about our team. Now, it's too early in the year to throw the towel. But some of the same things that have plagued us for the previous 6 years continue to be an issue for us. Perimeter defense is an absolute joke. And again, maybe it's just part of our philosophy. We're content to give them the low percentage shot in order to rebound. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. That's why Alabama is such a horrible matchup for us, because they can rip it from outside. We're kind of content to let them shoot. But it's incredible what happened in the second half. We started extending the defense a little bit, kind of forcing them to get a little bit farther out to kind of set up their shots. And then we made a run. I give Ben Howland a little credit there. We made some defensive adjustments that led to turnovers and then fast break points. The problem is that we were already so far behind, it was difficult. You say 14 points is not an insurmountable lead. You're absolutely right, it's not. But again, credit Ole Miss that every time that we made a bit of a run, they'd get a timeout, or we would get we'd turn the ball over, or they would get a steal. And so we lose. And nothing motivates our fans more than losing to Ole Miss. And it's the same way on the other side of the rivalry. The casual fan, they kind of watches games occasionally. They're going to watch this one. They're going to pay attention to this one. And so then when you don't win, all of a sudden there is a new level of angst. And as I spoke to someone yesterday And the point that I kind of brought up is that we've kind of lost the moderates. There are some people that went into the season and just said, hey, there is no way that Ben Howland's going to make the tournament this year. And then there's another part, the other, side of the spectrum is like, we've got too much talent not to make the tournament. I agree with that. I think we have the look of a tournament team. We don't always play like it, but we have enough talent to make the tournament. And then there's everybody else in the middle. They're kind of hopeful. They don't have a strong opinion either way. They're just going to cheer for Mississippi State. They're not really looking for a coaching change. They're not out there, scouring the internet looking for potential candidates. But those are the people that we lose when we lose a game like this. It really erodes support. And those are the people, those are a lot of your single-serving game ticket buyers. It's like, hey, I was thinking about going up there watching them play a game, but you know what? They're going to lose to this mediocre Ole Miss team. I think I'll just sit at home watching on TV. That's what happens. I mean, this is not just a damage to the net. This is a damage to the perception of your team within your own fan base. That's why these games are so important. You beat Ole Miss. Now all of a sudden, you're 2-0 in the SEC. You're 11-3 overall. People are like, hey, you know what? Hey, we're going in the right direction. Now, devil's advocate will say it's just one game, and it is just one game. But there's so much parity in the league, we can't afford to drop a game to a team that is basically similarly situated with us. And again, I give Kermit Davis and his group credit. They shot the ball extremely well, and some of that was our reluctance and unwillingness to get out and play the perimeter. But you give them open shots, they knock them down. You got to credit them for that. And then, of course, when we extended defense a little bit, those shots weren't quite as true. But let's run down some numbers here for you. We had 3 double-digit scorers. Iverson Molinar, 16 points. Garrison Brooks, 16 points. DJ Jeffries, 13 points. Cameron Matthews fouled out of the game but brought real energy, only played 28 minutes. 4 or 5 from the floor. You get 9 points from him. He almost has a double-double, pulls down 10 boards. 4 assists, 3 steals. That guy's instant energy for us. And, of course, he's playing in the starting lineup because Tolu was out. But, we got to get him to play in control a little bit more. But the guy's definitely a relentless competitor. I think that's a guy you can win with. You just got to have some pieces around him. He does all the grunt work. Shaquille Moore in the starting lineup, 3 of 7 from the floor, pitches in 7. We get 5 off the bench from Rocket Watts, 4 from Javian Davis. Anderson Garcia had some decent minutes at times too, just pitches into 2 points. But got into some foul trouble, found himself on the bench. State, just 8 steals in the ball game too. And that's the thing too. We're going to play so much man-to-man defense. You got to be able to win some one-on-one matchups too. You got to be able to take that situation and force some turnovers. And we don't always do that. We don't always do a good job. Now, we didn't turn the ball over a lot. That's a positive. If we're looking for something to feel good about here, we actually took care of the basketball pretty well. Now, we did have some stretches where we didn't shoot it exceptionally well. And again, you don't take Tolu Smith out of the ball game and get better as a team. But again, it's kind of an even type deal when we lose him and they lose Joyner. It's not like that they played at full strength and we didn't. We were both missing a starter, a key starter within the lineup. 3 of 16 from 3-point line for Mississippi State. That's a big difference in the ball game right there. Huge difference in the ball game. So State wins the rebounding battle 37-36. Ole Miss pitches in 11 of 23 from the line. From 3-point line. 11 of 23. 33 points from the 3-point line against our 9. That's a big difference in the ball game right there. Big difference in the ball game. Matthew Morrell, 10 of 11 from the floor. And I believe he made his first 10. 31 points, obviously a career high. 5 of 5 from the 3-point line. You think maybe, just maybe, we got to get out there and get a hand in his face. Just maybe. And like I read some of the comments too, like, oh, well, they had people hang out. No, they didn't. They didn't. There were a couple of contested shots. But a lot of these shots that Ole Miss was taking, were the product of good ball movement. They got themselves some open looks, and they knocked them down. Deshaun Ruffin, a young guy that really gave us some trouble on the defensive end. Played 30 minutes, 3 of 8 from the 3-point line, knocked down 4 of 6 free throws, 8 assists, did have 4 turnovers, but 4 steals to kind of negate some of that. 17 points for him. Nigel Brooks played pretty well down low for them, kind of took advantage of the fact that Tolu was out, especially on the rebounding side, 16 boards for him, 15 points. Really nice effort for him. And then Brakefield was the guy, too, that I thought gave good energy for him, too. 33 minutes of action, 15 points. Didn't get much out of the way of the bench. They 1 point bench scoring for them. And let's look at some of the intangibles here. Ole Miss shot 50.9%. We shot 44%. 3-point percentage, 47.8 for them, 18.8 for us. Free throw, 72 and 69. Pretty close there. Nice. All right, so points in the paint for them, 30. Points in the paint for us, 46. And so that kind of flies in the whole face of, we're really missing a dominant post guy. He certainly would have helped, but we still won in the paint. Points off turnovers, 19 for us, 15 for them. That's basically the same. Second chance points for us, 19, them just 7. And again, that goes back to the rebounding. Fast break points for them, 10, 7 for us. Bench points for us, 11, 1 for them. The difference in the ball game, we didn't defend the perimeter. They shot it exceptionally well from the perimeter, and we take a loss. Simple as that. You can draw it up however else you want to. You can make whatever excuses you want. The reality of it is that they were simply better on offense, and you give them credit for creating opportunities and taking advantage. But some of that, too, is on us for not maybe being aggressive early enough on the defensive end in that ball game. 50 points, and this is a team that was scoring, 68, 69 points a game, and we give up 50 in the first half. Then you get into a situation, too, where your execution in the half court's got to be better. We can't afford to have empty possessions. We had a bunch of them. And there was a time there we made a run. I thought we kind of gassed out a little bit. But, again, every time that we were able to get gain a little ground on them, I'm just sitting here looking at this. I guess at one point they were up 30. Yeah, they were up 20, 59-39 with 17 minutes to go in the game. You begin to think there's no way we're overcoming a 20-point deficit. We cut it down to 10 with 13-13 to go in the game. We're down 10 at 61-51. You think, okay, let's get some production here. Next thing you know, it's back out to 14. We battle, and then the 10-minute mark, it's back out to 14. We cut it back down to 10, just under 9 minutes to go, and then immediately it goes right back out to 13. They hit a 3. Deshaun Ruffin knocks it down. And then they basically kept it double digits up until the final minutes. We get it down to 7 with 4:07 to play, and you're thinking, hey, we got a shot here. They take it back out to 9. We miss a shot. Next thing you know, we're down 11. We get it back to within 7 a couple times, in the final minute, but at that point it's academic. And so we just never, Ole Miss controlled the game. They took an early lead, and to their credit, they made the plays on both ends of the court. You forget, you go back and look at this, and it's like, we opened up, made some plays early on. DJ Jeffries knocks down a 3. Think, hey, we're in good shape here. You look up, and it's like, okay, it's 5-4, and then the next thing you know, it's 17-7, Ole Miss. It's like, we get a early lead, trade some baskets early, and the next thing you know, we're down 10, and we're chasing the game. We did pull even with 11:30 to go at 19. And then from there, it was basically all Ole Miss the rest of the first half. They just took charge from there. We ran out of gas and just didn't have much answer for what they wanted to do offensively. And so a lot of people say, Steve, what do you think? Well, I still think we could be a tournament team. But losing games like that are certainly not helpful to the Bulldog cause. And, of course, the first things people come out with, say, fire Ben Howland. And, I get emotional sometimes, too. I got a couple of group texts. There's some text messages in there sometimes I'm probably not real proud of in hindsight. But to be honest with you, I think that I'm, in many respects, kind of like a lot of our fans. It's like, I want Mississippi State basketball to be great. I don't want us just to be average. I don't want us to be pretty good. I want us to be great. We had some great years under Rick Stansbury. And part of the reason they felt so great is because we were so bad at football at the time. And so we looked forward to basketball to give us something to cheer for, to have a rooting interest in before baseball season got here. And so as a result, the context of those seasons is much greater because they were so important to our fan base. And there were a lot of years, too, that, we left some games on the table under Rick, too, that would have put us in the tournament. We spent too much time in the NIT and never advanced beyond the first weekend of the NCAA tournament. As great as the Stansbury years were, we never made it to the Sweet 16. Even with the SEC championship team back in 2004. We didn't do it. Got upset by Butler. We let them dictate the flow of the game. And so, but I want to get back to that stuff when it matters. I mean, I love going to the Humphrey Coliseum and seeing 8, 9, 10,000 people there to watch us play a weekend ball game against Alabama and Mark Godfrey. Those were some great memories. We had some great teams. We're not even good right now. And you say, but Steve, look at the record. That's not what I mean. I mean, when you look at how many teams there are in the NCAA, we're basically an average team. And when you look at what we've lost and what we've got coming up, it's like, well, where are we going to make this game up? And I don't know where that's going to be. But that's the one thing I'll say about Ben Howland is just when you're ready to kind of put dirt on these guys, you're ready to bury them, they win a game they're not supposed to. Now, we're going to host a pretty bad Georgia team on Wednesday. That's got to be a W. Then you get Alabama coming in here on Saturday. And, again, it's a bad matchup for us, but it's at home. So if you can find a way to go 2-0 this week, now all of a sudden there's a lot of room for optimism. So that's what we're pulling for. Of course, first things first, go take care of Georgia on Wednesday. But the reality of it is this team is capable of winning enough games to make the tournament. But we cannot afford to drop games like this to teams with a net, over 100. And you say, well, it's the SEC, it's a rivalry game. Yeah, okay, cool. We still took a loss. You can explain it away however you want to, but we got outplayed. We got outcoached. We got another loss. Number 1-1 in the SEC. Again, I think it's too early to panic. I don't think in any way you look at it and say, you know what, hey, this season's over. I don't believe that. But I could see this being one of those teams where we're just so up and down, and that's the thing that I think hurts us. When they get ready to review the Mississippi State file with the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee, I say, man, this team's got some good wins, got some really bad losses too. There's just so much of a roller coaster. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Ben Howland doesn't care. I don't believe that. And I think we have talent. I think we've done a good job recruiting, but we got to win games because everything else is just details. It's like we've had some coaches in the past in multiple sports like, oh, he's just such a nice guy. It's true. It's true. Dan Mullen wasn't an especially nice guy, but he won a lot of football games here. I don't need somebody to come to my kid's birthday party. I just need you to go win games for me. I don't need to pretend that we're friends. I don't need to go get a picture made with somebody and say, hey, it's my buddy here, my buddy Vic Schaefer. And Vic was great to me when he was here, and I've still got his number. I'm sure if I called him, he'd call me back. But we're not those kind of friends. It's like sometimes when we look at all this stuff too, it's like, when Vic was here, number one, Vic was a very genuine person to our fan base, but he also won a ton of games. Do you think you'd liked him as much if he'd have been just kind of an average coach? Of course you wouldn't have. You root for people that are winners. And so at the end of the day, this is not a Boy Scout troop. We're not out here, trying to win the Pine Box Derby. We're trying to win the Southeastern Conference. And sometimes that means you got to go get a couple jerks. I don't mean they got to be abrasive with the fan base, as Alan McKean's legacy would tell us. But the reality of it is I don't need somebody to come in here and be cute. I need somebody to come in here and win. I just want to win. I'm not part of this just to put on a maroon shirt and say we are family. You're invested in this to win games. So all the rest of it is just, kind of means to an end. Oh, they're a nice person. Did you meet his wife? Great people. Yep, yeah. Do you win the games? Not enough. Oh, okay, cool. Again, not trying to put together a fraternity here. Trying to win ball games. And so every coach in every sport, regardless of circumstance, is judged on wins and losses. And what is the goal in men's basketball? And for that matter, women's basketball. You make the NCAA tournament. Nobody aspires to make the NIT. Now, maybe if you're a team that's kind of rebuilding, you've had a couple losing seasons, you think that'd be a nice step for us in our development, our maturation process, make the NIT, be great. But we got to make tournament. It's as simple as that. I mean, we're in year 7, and we still haven't won an NCAA tournament game. You can say, but Steve, no. The facts are the facts. This is a tournament caliber team. This is a team with tournament talent. We need to get to the tournament. Period. Simple as that. I don't care. The rest of it doesn't matter to me. I don't care about people's politics. I don't care how COVID cautious they are. I don't care if they've ever signed, a football or basketball or baseball, for the auxiliary club. It doesn't matter to me. None of that stuff matters to me. What matters most is, are we being successful on the field and courts of play? And, I grew up, I'm from the 1900s. I'm an old guy. So we didn't always have it this good. And some of you are going to message me and say, Steve, you just think you're old now. I hope to live to be really old. But the reality of it is, I remember when I was a kid, if we made a bowl game, that was like the biggest thing that ever happened. It's like, oh my gosh, we just made a bowl game. Now it's like we make one nowadays and it's never good enough. And I'm glad that the expectations around Mississippi State athletics have changed. I don't think in many respects that a lot of people fully appreciate that. I think we should expect to be competitive and everything. I'll give you a good example of this too. And I hate to belabor the point here, but I think it's important. How many of you all kept up with Mississippi State volleyball until this year? I mean, honestly. You really kept up with it. We had record crowds this year. We had fans following the team and putting it out on social media and say, hey, we won, because we will support a winner. Julie Darty Dennis, really nice person, and the interactions I've had with her, very impressive. But you know what? I'm not evaluating her as a person. I'm evaluating her as a coach. And so you see it yourself. Your interest level in that sport is peaked because of their on-the-court success. There are people that were tweeting about volleyball that never cared about volleyball. They never kept up with it. They didn't even know the name of our coach. But because all of a sudden now we've won, and that's another thing too I think is interesting too, is we don't realize too the totality of the athletic department. We got to go out and hire a coach for volleyball. We got to hire a coach for men's golf, women's golf. And there's a lot to that. And it seems like everybody's always under evaluation. We got it right with Julie Darty Dennis. We did. And one of the things that I was told in the beginning when they hired her is like, hey, listen, this is your program. You run it the way you want to program. You got autonomy. You run your program the way you want to run your program. I just don't want any trouble. You just go handle your business, run your show. And look at what she's done. It's great. I don't know who votes on these national awards or whatever, but how can you not be excited about what she's done at a school that has very little in the way of volleyball tradition? And the fact that our fans are out there digging up and complaining about the volleyball polls, that is a credit to Julie Darty Dennis. She has made people who were previously apathetic care and have some sense of an emotional investment. And why? Because she won. It's that simple. Now, she's just as nice a person as she was when she didn't win big. When she was building this program, she was still just as nice. You just didn't notice as much because she wasn't winning as well the way she is now. So now all of a sudden, we're winning. Now, oh man, I really like this person. Yeah, it's crazy how that works. It's amazing. And it's the same thing in this. It's like, so let's get excited about men's basketball. And I have people all the time that say, how do our fans feel? Well, we're just kind of apathetic. The opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. And there are a lot of our fans, that's kind of how we feel. And then we lose to Ole Miss. Now all of a sudden that population of indifference all of a sudden gets motivated. Hey, now we need to make a change here. And that's what happens. When you begin to lose the middle ground of your fan base, it's tough. It's tough to get them back. Because that's the currency within this state. You don't think those people at Ole Miss wanted to beat Mississippi State? They had some up and down struggles. That's a good way to get your fan base back in your corner. Dan Mullen built a career on it. And so that's kind of where we are. So, again, I'm not ready to throw the baby out with the bathwater because I do think we had the makings of a tournament team, and I think we're still gelling. If we could get everybody healthy, maybe it's a different ball game. But the reality of it is, at the end of the season, when John Cohen sits down, in my personal opinion, it's going to boil down to, did we make a tournament or not? Are we getting better as a program? Because if you look at what we're going to lose at the end of this year, if we're going to have to rebuild next year, I'm either going to be rebuilding with a tournament banner being hung on opening night, or I'm going to be doing it with a brand new coach. And that's just the reality of athletics. Now, for those of you that are, just huge supporters of the current coaches, like we had with Vic, you guys can exchange Christmas cards, and I think that's great. I'll be friendly if I see them out about on the road or whatever, but you got to win. It's as simple as that. You have to win. And losing games like this erodes support within your fan base, which in turn makes the hump a little less hostile when opponents come in here. Makes your team not have quite as much hustle. And last thing I'm going to say about this, a few years ago we had Kentucky come in here, and we nearly beat them. It was the most electric atmosphere that I had seen in many, many years at Humphrey Coliseum, because there was a belief. There was a belief that this team was getting better. There was a belief we could beat Kentucky. We didn't, but we played pretty well. We didn't finish, but we played well. And so the believers are out there. You just got to give them something to believe in. Whether that be this team or whether it be a new coach. You got to give people that want to believe something to believe in. All right, today's Top 10 list brought to you by closewithblair.com. Matter of fact, got a message earlier today from Boneyard listeners. Today, Steve, could you send me the information for Close with Blair? Happy to do it. Said, hey, I was going to fast forward through a show, but I was in a hurry. Show's gotten longer, so I can understand why maybe you didn't want to go through the whole 90 minutes. So I'm happy to share that information and connect our Boneyard listeners with our friend, Blair Chandler. He's my friend. He'll be your friend too. And it helps to have a friend in the business. When you're navigating something complicated, it's good to have an expert, somebody kind of holds your hand the whole way through. Well, what does this mean? We got to get an inspection. Well, I thought we already had the appraisal. We do it. Something different. Well, now it's got to go to underwriting. Well, what does it go to overriding after that? What happens? It's nice to have somebody involved that knows all the ins and outs of the industry. And that's Blair Chandler. 21 years of experience, man. This is not somebody, not a greenhorn. This is somebody that's been through the wars. They've seen all the non-conforming borrowers. They've gotten, they have seen it all, done it all, and in most cases got the loan approved. Give Blair Chandler a look at closewithblair.com. That's C-L-O-S-E with Blair, B-L-A-I-R.com. Closewithblair.com. And by being a Boneyard listener, doesn't matter who you cheer for. You can cheer for us. You can cheer for Ole Miss. You can cheer for University of California at Santa Barbara. Makes no difference. He's not going to discriminate. If you're a Boneyard listener and you mention to Blair, whether by text or by email or by phone, that you heard about him on the Boneyard, he's going to pay for your appraisal. That's a cool thing right there. That's a fee that you don't have to pay, right? And anytime that you can save a little money in a mortgage game, you're already ahead of the game. Give Blair a text or call today. I'm going to give you his personal cell number, 601-500-2344. Again, that's 601-500-2344. Closewithblair.com. Now, I know Blair, being the delicate flower that he is, because he's a jam band enthusiast, and so when we actually plug in a distortion pedal, he has to play the top 10 list at a little lower volume. Well, you are not like me, and I am still working on Blair to kind of be his rock music sponsor. So I'm going to encourage you on this list. We're going to crank it up today. We're not doing easy listening. We're not doing adult contemporary. We're not doing 70s soft rock. We're not doing that. We're kicking some tail today. All right. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a top 10 list of rock bands that have made it with second singers, not two lead singers at one time, but bands that had achieved some notoriety with one singer, changed singers, and kind of kept going strong. Now, you may have a preference. You may have liked the previous singer more, and that's cool too. But I thought this would be an interesting exercise. There are a few bands that I didn't mention, and I know
What's the big deal?
Where can you get pizza, bread twists, specialty chicken, and more for just $5.99 each?
Is it at Domino's?
He hands off hand-tossed pizza and a marble cookie brownie. He's going!
There's a lot of variety on the radio and at Domino's too, where you can
Mix and match 2 or more. $5.99 each at Domino's.
2-item minimum. Pan pizza, bone-in wings, and bread bowls will be extra. Ask for this limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary.
Some of you love them, that had decent runs with other singers. Judas Priest being one of them. Rob Halford, of course, one of the legends in the game, man. And what's interesting, too, Tim Ripper Owens actually replaced him for a while. The movie Rockstar with Mark Wahlberg is based on Judas Priest and the replacement of Rob Halford. It's about Ripper Owens. And so if you haven't seen it, I watch it every time it's on. Like I can be cruising through the channels at like 1 in the morning, and I'll see Rockstars like halfway through. I'm going to watch the rest of it. I just am. Steel Dragon, baby. Love it. And here's a little tidbit about that too. The guy that sings the vocals that Mark Wahlberg is kind of faking there, he's lip syncing to. That's a guy from Steelheart, right? The song "Stand Up and Shout," "We All Die Young." That's the vocalist from Steelheart. "I'll Never Let You Go" because you have angel eyes. Angel eyes. All right, so Judas Priest. Chicago is another one. Chicago's changed singers a couple times, right? And had some success. There's another band you probably probably a one-hit wonder in your minds, which means you probably should do a little more research into the catalog. They recorded a couple albums with a different singer, and then they hired Mike Patton and had a huge hit with the song Epic, and that's Faith No More. Check those guys out. And then Bad Company. It's pretty crazy. Paul Rodgers, one of the best blues singers of all time. Love him. But they bring, I guess, Brian Howe in and had a couple, the Holy Water album is legit. They had a couple of good albums of Bad Company after Paul Rodgers left. Now, it was a little more radio-friendly where it wasn't just put on rock radio. It was put on Top 40 radio. If you needed somebody, there's a lot of great songs on there. Sometimes I'll put those albums on and jam them. And I remember when Holy Water came out, there were a lot of people in my generation who were like, hey, this is really cool. So there's some honorable mentions for you. Here's the top 10 rock groups that kind of soldiered on with second singers and had hits. And there are some humdingers on this list. Number 10, this band has the second highest number of number one singles, only to Shinedown, in modern rock chart history. It's the band 3 Days Grace. I love the Adam Gauthier stuff. Like my favorite 3 Days Grace stuff is when he was there. They made a change and brought in the singer of kind of a neighboring band in many respects that was related to the guitar player. Yeah, I'm talking about the Waste brothers. It's Matt and Brad Waste. Of course, Matt was previously with a band called My Darkest Days. You can check them out. They're still moving on with a different singer, but again, all Canadian band, but really, 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 really good band. But the first single with Matt as the singer was a song called Painkiller. It went to number 1. I think you'll dig that one. Number 9, and there is some controversy about this album. I'm a crew head. I'm a unashamed Motley Crue fan. Always have been. And I know it irritates some people. Oh, they were this. Motley Crue was great. Motley Crue is still great. They're about to play stadiums again if we could ever get everything handled. But there was an album that was recorded. So you had, of course, you had Too Fast for Love, and you had Shout the Devil and Theater of Pain, Girls, 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 which really made them mainstream to a lot of people. And then Dr. Feelgood really solidified them as one of the headliners of the 80s. Then they had the Greatest Hits album where they dropped Primal Scream and a couple of unreleased tracks. And then Vince got fired. And then he did, his Unmasked album or Exposed album. And they get John Corabi from The Scream, and they record a self-titled album. And now this sounds sacrilegious to some people. Some of the best music in Tommy Lee and Mick Mars' career is on this solo album. And a lot of people, it wasn't really Crue without Vince. Okay, I get it. That doesn't mean that it wasn't a great album. It was a great album. It didn't sell nearly as well as it should have. And that was just a lot of people just kind of rejecting a Motley Crue lineup without Vince Neil. But, the title track title track. The lead single on this album was Hooligan's Holiday. That's your number 9 song, Motley Crue's Hooligan's Holiday. My favorite song on the track, on that album, is Till Death Do Us Part. I think it's phenomenal. I think if you put it on today, it holds up. That's the thing that I'll say. A lot of the Motley stuff in the 80s sounds really dated because of the production value at the time. You listen to that self-titled album, it sounds like it came out a week ago. It doesn't sound 80-ish. It's very, very much a rock album. And I'm telling you, give it another shot. If you did back then, you're like, oh, I don't like this. Listen to it again. I'm telling you, you'll dig it. Number 8. A lot of people think, Steve, well, Joey Belladonna had all the great years with Anthrax. I disagree. I thought the albums they did with John Bush were phenomenal. So Anthrax is your number 8 band. John Bush sold a ton of records with Anthrax, and I got to go back with Room for One More. There's always room at the table. Always room for one more. Number 8 on the list, Anthrax is Room for One More. And I actually think John was good for the band because I feel like, honestly, when Joey rejoined the band, there was more of an edge to Joey with the older albums. Deeper in the catalog, they put that Worship music album is phenomenal. Number 7, Alice in Chains. They have not had as many hits as they did when Lane Staley was a singer, but they've had a few. And that's one of the reasons. There are a lot of bands out there that have went out and hired singers, and there's somebody else basically up there singing karaoke and doing a great job. I get it. But Alice in Chains has had some hits. And I wondered if they would ever tour again. I really did. Didn't know how I felt about it. They bring in Howard, and he was kind of a touring musician for a while. But I go back to the very first real hit they had post Lane Staley, and that's Check My Brain. That's number 7 on your list, Check My Brain from Alice in Chains. Really sounds like old school Alice in Chains. Number 6, Peter Gabriel was the lead singer of Genesis for a long time. He leaves, so Phil Collins comes out from behind the kit. Made them a much more commercially accepted band. They had a ton of hits with Phil Collins, Tony and Mike. It was great. I know a lot of people liked the earlier stuff. I was never a big Peter Gabriel fan. I know that I'm going to get hate mail for that. I didn't like Sledgehammer. I didn't like a lot of that stuff. I just didn't like Peter Gabriel's voice. I know many of you do, and that's cool. We'll still be friends. We'll just disagree about this. I thought Genesis was better with Phil Collins as the singer. And I think there's a reason that Phil Collins has had a more successful solo career as well. But I go Land of Confusion. Number 6, Genesis, Land of Confusion. Number 5, and the rest of these are not really radio friendly. These are bands that struggled to get airplay during their heyday. And the fact that they sold so many records says a lot about their willingness to get out on the road and tour and put on a great show. Number 5 on the list is Deep Purple. The David Coverdale years, that's right. For those of you who didn't know, David Coverdale from Whitesnake was the lead singer in Deep Purple and had a couple, 3 really good albums with them. And there was all this, craziness within the band. David came in, I thought really gave them some stability again. So we're going to go Deep Purple's Stormbringer. That's the title song off the second album with Coverdale. Stormbringer. I got a chance to see the Purple tour here a couple years ago down in Biloxi. Took Ani down there to see Whitesnake. Well, I think we saw 13 shows that year. At the end of the year, he goes, the best show I saw all year was Whitesnake. Those guys are real rock stars. And yeah, you're right. They don't look like some guy that just got off a double shift at Subway and grabbed a guitar and walked on stage. These guys are committed. Incredible musicians. Got great image. So they played a combination of the Whitesnake classics and then a handful of songs from the Deep Purple catalog. Still got the shirt. The Whitesnake, the Purple tour. It was great. I believe we opened up with Burn. I think that's right. On that tour. Number 4. Ozzy and Black Sabbath had a great run, one of the legendary rock bands of all time. And then Ozzy gets fired. Eventually has a solo career, but Tony and Geezer and those guys continued on. And they bring in a guy named Ronnie James Dio. It changed the band. And to Ronnie's credit, too, and Ronnie James Dio, one of the best hard rock singers of all time, God rest his soul, he felt like, hey, I don't want to be the lead singer in Black Sabbath. Let's change the name of the band. They did, after the Heaven and Hell album, they changed the name of the band to Heaven and Hell. Because, really, out of respect to Ozzy. because Ronnie just didn't want to ride those coattails. And of course, Ronnie was the lead singer in Rainbow, and of course Dio, and it's phenomenal to see. That's the thing. It didn't matter how small you are, you got the big voice, you always got a gig. So Black Sabbath, we're going to go with The Mob Rules. The Mob Rules, your number 4 song. Number 3, a lot of people don't know this. The legendary Bruce Dickinson is not the original lead singer of Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden cut a couple albums before Bruce joined the band. Bruce's operatic stylings is what really allowed Iron Maiden to take the next jump. There are songs that they could play with Bruce they couldn't play before. And they couldn't play after. Blaze was kind of operatic too, but he just didn't have the same grit and the same gravel on his vocal as Bruce. Bruce Dickinson, one of the greatest vocalists of all time. I don't care what anybody says. And I went back with, on the Somewhere in Time album, number 3 on your list, Wasted Years from Iron Maiden. Almost Went Stranger in a Strange Land. But I love that opening guitar riff, Wasted Years, number 3. Okay, so now we're down to the final 2, and some of you are wondering, okay, Steve, who could it be? Number 2, and this is going to hurt some feelings, and that's okay. I know it won't hurt Rob's feelings. It's Van Halen at number 2. Sammy Hagar sold a ton of records with Van Halen, had a ton of commercial success. And there are a lot of people out there like, oh, I prefer the David Lee Roth stuff. You know what? I do too. But that doesn't prevent me from enjoying the Sammy Hagar stuff. I don't hate Sammy Hagar. I liked Sammy Hagar before he joined the band. Sammy Hagar was already an accomplished, well-traveled musician long before he got to Van Halen. It's not like they just went and got some geek off the street or hired some guy from a tribute band. Sammy Hagar was already a bit of a powerhouse. And so you bring him in, and the chemistry in the band was phenomenal for many, many years. And there's so many things that I could get excited about with Sammy Hagar stuff. I really felt Dave is a better front man. Sammy's a better singer. He really is. Now, Sammy has a tendency to oversing at times, but I love the Van Halen stuff with Sammy. I really do. And it's like it's kind of silly, especially now that he's left the band. That you look back and say, oh, I can't listen to that stuff. Guys, you're only hurting yourself. I could have gone a lot of different directions here, but I went with Can't Stop Loving You off the Balance album. That's Van Halen, number 2 on the list. Number 1, and this should be obvious. It absolutely should be obvious. Nobody has done it better. They basically have had 2 careers. You had the Bon Scott years, which were phenomenal. And that's back to, these guys are, Bon Scott coming up from Australia. They're kind of figuring it all out. And, Bon wasn't a good-looking guy. Bon didn't have the greatest voice. But Bon was the guy that could write songs. Bon was the guy that could deliver live. And they built a huge following because they were a blue-collar band. You couldn't hear Bon Scott singing the Iron Maiden stuff or even the Van Halen stuff. Not even most of the Black Sabbath stuff. Bon Scott and AC/DC kind of made their own lane. And then tragically Bon dies. And a lot of people wondered, hey, what's going to happen here? Yeah, we'll just go ahead and release one of the greatest albums of all time. Right? Back in Black. And that was really kind of a tribute to Bon Scott. And they have basically been 2 bands. Now, you can say, Angus has been great throughout, him and Malcolm both. I think they found the different gear with Brian Johnson. And I think some of that, too, is because Brian Johnson's vocal stylings kind of allowed them, I think, to write a different brand of song. So I can appreciate the Bon Scott stuff. And I love the Bon Scott stuff. And there are a lot of that stuff, like you hear some of the live, like some of the Brian Johnson stuff, singing some of those Bon Scott songs, and you hear it, and it's like it's breathed new life into them. But you got to go with the classic, right? You got to go with You Shook Me All Night Long. We're going to go out on a high note. Love the video. Absolutely love the video. But love the track. And I have been, when I used to DJ, fraternity and sorority swaps, back in the early 90s on the Southern Miss campus, people would come up to me and request. They knew that I would play some rock stuff if they asked me. I think I played this every night. I remember DJing some Chi Omega swaps, and 17, 18-year-old, 19-year-old kids walking up and say, hey, are you the guy that'll play AC/DC? Yeah. And I even had some AC/DC dance mix stuff. But the reality of it is, this is a band that's timeless, and nobody has done it better. And, of course, their switch was not due to, sadly, to musical differences that were reconcilable, it was due to the death of Bon Scott. But good on AC/DC for continuing on and finding a great singer. So there you go. Interesting top 10 list today. I think you'll dig that one. Listen to that on the way home. If you have ideas for the top 10 list, reach out, let me know. Happy to add them to the list. Roy is always kind of keeping up on that. Roy is, in many respects, been a godsend. He's an analytical guy. So he kind of lets me know, hey, this did well, this didn't do well. And so we try to find things we think you'll like. And so if you have ideas, reach out to me or Roy. You can find Roy on Spotify and Twitter at Dogmatic. That's DAWGMATIC 67. And I always retweet him and Izzy. And I want to thank Izzy as always for putting these great lists on Apple Music, because not everybody's a Spotify guy. I'm not a Spotify person. I'm not. I'm an Apple Music person. So we provide you the best of both worlds, and who knew that it would be the big deal that it's become. So thank you guys for your support of the top 10 list, and look forward to another great one on Wednesday. Next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart. I love Campus Bookmart too. And I understand the man, back when he had hair, was whipping his hair around to Deep Purple. I know he was. Then to Black Sabbath. I just know it. I don't need him to tell me. I just know. And maybe that's a conversation you can have with Stan when you visit him at Campus Bookmart. Now, I can guarantee you the lovely, talented Susie knows all of these songs because she married a drummer. How about that? You're learning some things today about the people you've heard about for so many times on the show. Kathy Brown, I don't know. She married, she didn't marry a musician. Let's just say that. So I don't know. But I guarantee you, her husband, Paul, I know that he knows Deep Purple. I know that he knows Van Halen, Iron Maiden, Genesis, AC/DC. Maybe we can turn them on us in 3 Days Grace. How about that? Go by and talk rock music with them, but also talk maroon and white fashions when you visit them in town. If you can't make it to town, let me give you a promo code that'll save you a little juice, save you some cash. Visit them on the World Wide Web at campusbookmart.net. And by being a loyal Boneyard listener, the phrase that pays, BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson, will get you free shipping on all orders over $50. Any order less than $50, absolutely incomplete. Love Campus Bookmart. I guarantee you, in the last year, I guarantee you I spent $1,000 in there. I would guarantee it, because when all the national championship merch and all came out, I had to buy some for everybody. And like anytime that I need like a present or whatever, that's where I go. It's just like, oh, so-and-so is graduating or so-and-so is getting married. Okay, well, I could go buy them something lame off their registry, or I can get them something Mississippi State related, right? I can go buy that Christmas ornament, so every year when they hang that up on the tree, they'll think of me and my family, right? So that's what I do, and I think you could do the same thing too. Outfit your family and everybody around you in maroon and white fashions from campusbookmart.net. Of course, promo code BSR. Okay, so there was some good basketball news over the weekend, as you are well aware. Mississippi State women shorthanded again, just 2 coaches and 7 players, and they beat Vanderbilt. Now, we discussed last week that this is a better Vanderbilt team. So this wasn't like what we saw 2 years ago, where you could just kind of show up and go through shoot-around and win the ball game. These ladies had to scratch and claw, and it was a dogfight until the very end, and then the Dogs won. Vanderbilt actually gets out to a 15-11 lead. State wins the second quarter 17-12, and so we're up 1 at the break. Vanderbilt comes right back, wins the third quarter 19-17, but then it's closing time, and coffee is for closers, and Maya Taylor had a bunch of it. 25-17, fourth quarter for the Lady Bulldogs. They end up winning 70-63. Really great effort. And what can you say about what Doug Novak has done? You know what? If Doug had just kind of like, hey, I need to work with my agent or whatever and trying to find some opportunities, and just kind of not done a good job, if he just kind of made sure that we were able to make it through the week and get to games, you almost couldn't have blamed him. But that's not how he's built. We talk about teams taking on the personality of their coach. I believe that's what you're seeing. I think you're beginning to see who Doug Novak is. There have been back-to-back games that the Bulldogs could have easily lost and probably should have lost at times. But they didn't. That's coaching. We have shared this on the show many times before. Mississippi State folks, in many respects, we'll put up with losing for a while. We understand losing is part of competition. We won't put up with lack of effort. We will cheer for above average effort, but when we get elite effort, we're going to be on our feet. Doug Novak's got many Bulldog fans right now saying, hey, take the interim tag off his coaching title. He's earned their respect. This team has earned our respect, and maybe it's part of it's because we've had modest expectations after all the adversity we've gone through. Difficult year last year, all the COVID craziness, and then, of course, we had another coaching change. And we had some players leave, and a lot of people are like, Steve, I don't know what's going to happen. You know what? Doug Novak and the staff hadn't made any excuses. These ladies haven't made excuses for themselves. And you know what? Some of the excuses that could be offered, you could even be considered reasons. You could say, you know what, hey, I kind of get it. They're not buying into that. That's what fires Mississippi State people up. It's like, you know what, hey, we only got 7 players. We're going to win anyway. We ain't going to quit. And they did. It's outstanding. What I thought was crazy, too, is like they held all of Vanderbilt's leading 5 starters. Not a single one of them had double-digit scoring. They had a couple ladies come off the bench. One of them, of course, Ayanna Moore, is a solid contributor for them. I don't know why she didn't start, but she had 20. But Lady Bulldogs got there and competed. Let's look at some numbers. Anastasia Hayes. It's a huge night. I mean, huge night. When you had to have it, how about that? Anastasia Hayes plays all 40 minutes, 11 of 20 from the floor, knocks down a couple threes, 7 of 7 from the line. And in a tight ball game, that means everything. 1 rebound, just 2 personal fouls. There's not a lot of players that wouldn't get 2 fouls just accidentally playing 40 minutes. 3 assists, 1 turnover, 31 points, and hit a big 3 when we had to have it. Huge. Jerkalia Jordan, 31 minutes, 11 points for her, a couple steals, also a block, pulled down 5 rebounds. Hayes, 33 minutes, 6 rebounds, 9 points. Maya Taylor, 39 minutes. She's just the Energizer Bunny. Every time I turn around, it's like she's getting a steal. She's just got another one now. That's 3 on the game for her, and then 6 points. She did have a couple turnovers in the ball game, which is kind of atypical for her, and I'm sure she'll tell you she's got to do a little bit better with ball security. But by and large, her assist-turnover ratio is generally very good. She got into a little bit of foul trouble, which is a big deal for us because Danae Carter fouled out, and we had to have Katarian Thompson come on and play some big minutes. And what does she do? 10 points. 10 points in 19 minutes of action and 3 steals, not a single personal foul. Pulled down 3 rebounds. Pretty impressive. Pretty impressive effort, man. The ladies scored 30 points in the paint, outscore Vanderbilt, 30-28 in the paint. Points off turnovers, this is where you want to see a difference in the ball game? Right here. 31 for Mississippi State, 11 for Vanderbilt. Second chance points, Vandy has a bit of an advantage here, 18-8. Fast break points, that's where they kind of got in our legs a little bit, 15-7. And they, of course, with that starter coming off the bench, they outscored our bench because we didn't have a bench. We didn't have a bench. But we found a way to win the ball game. And so a lot of people was, hey, Steve, is Doug Novak a candidate? Here's the deal. How can you not at least give the guy an interview? And I think in many ways he's interviewing now. Now I think he entered the year with basically an understanding that, hey, we're going to make a coaching change at the end of the year. And he's like, I got a mortgage to pay. I got bills. I got to work. I can't just pack up and go. This guy's making the most of his opportunity. How can you not be impressed from what we've seen from Mississippi State basketball last week? Really beyond that. I mean, just since we've got into SEC play, they find out basically 48 hours before that Missouri game's getting postponed. Was it Missouri game? Well, we got a game postponed, the Florida game, I guess. And then now we're headed to South Carolina, number 1 South Carolina. And we go out there and lose by a dozen, and basically had it in second single digits for a stretch there. In the middle part of the ball game, we were competing. We didn't quit. It'd have been easy to go up there and get blown out. Nobody would have blamed us, but we didn't. We had some heart and some pride in the uniform, pride in ourselves, and buy-in with our coaches. Then we go on the road, shorthanded, and beat Alabama in their gym. And then we're shorthanded again, and we take down Vandy. Now, we got a couple big road games this week. Kentucky and Ole Miss. And Ole Miss fell to Tennessee over the weekend, but Ole Miss playing well. They really are. They will be ready to go when we go up there. Again, I encourage you, if you can get to Oxford this weekend, if you can tolerate it, go up there and cheer for the ladies. But here's the thing that I'll know. I don't think anybody's going to pick us to win either one of these games. But how do you count out the Bulldogs after what you've seen this past week? I think it's interesting. Now, early on, I thought, you know what, there's really no way Doug gets this job. I still think it's a long shot. But the reality of it is he is beginning to curry some favor within the fan base. Looking at Kentucky, that will be, let me just double check here. That is the Thursday game, so we'll give you a more in-depth preview a little bit later. But, Kentucky 8-4 on the year. They got talent, but SEC play has gotten here, and they postponed the Auburn game. They beat Georgia in Lexington, and then they got beat by 20 against South Carolina. So no shame in that. But you look at the game and you think, okay, this might be one we can compete in. They don't look to be as strong as they have been. They will be a good team. There's no doubt about it. Kentucky, Matthew Mitchell did a great job. Ole Miss, 13-2 on the year. And give them a lot of credit. They have definitely built and built and built. And in many respects, I'm sure they feel like they passed us. And that's what they, I'm sure, will think. That'll be the coronation or the changing of the guard when we go up there and play. Hopefully the ladies have a little more to say about it. They drill Florida in the SEC opener. What's interesting for Ole Miss, Arkansas and South Carolina both got postponed. So they get Florida on the road, drill them by 18, and then they get beat 70-58 in Oxford by Tennessee. Tennessee playing well too. They'll play Alabama on Thursday and then host us on Sunday. So, again, we've got a lot to cheer for in many respects when you look at what Doug Novak and his staff are doing. We don't even know a lot of these people. The transfer portal, we all these people come in and all these coaches come in and hey, it's nice to meet you. I'm sure you're a nice person, but can you win some games? And Doug's like, yeah, I got you. Yeah, we got our transfers in here. Yeah, we can go win some games, and they have been. And so there is some room for optimism. A lot of people said, I don't expect anything from women's basketball this year. And you know what? That probably was fair. It probably was fair. Brand new team, second coaching change in, 14 months, And so, you kind of understand that. You had some star players leave. And what's interesting, too, you had Jemiah Mingo transferred to Alabama and then took an L to Mississippi State. Sometimes the grass isn't always greener on the other side. But the reality of it is this team is exceeding expectations. Now, still a lot of basketball left to play, just like on the men's side. And it's interesting, too, is I think the women are playing harder than the men, and I feel like the men are probably a tournament team, and I still think the women may not be. But after this weekend, I'm probably even getting close to being even-handed in that respect. If the women continue to play like they're playing, I think, yes, they very well could be a tournament team. And wouldn't that be something? Again, I get back to the culture thing. We had good basketball culture, and then we didn't. And you got a new coach in there that is a former men's coach that's trying to create culture, and it's a short-term deal. There's no guarantee he's going to be here next year. And again, I can't say enough about that staff and these players. They have just said, you know what, forget all the noise. Let's just go play basketball. I love it, man. I know you guys do too. I absolutely love it. And after we lost the ball game to Ole Miss on Saturday night, it was nice all of a sudden, hey, what? You find out Sunday that we're trying 7 players and 2 assistant coaches out there, and it's like, can we just grab some students from the section and let them participate? And we won the game. It's insanity. And again, it goes back to coaching. Absolutely coaching. And then coaching breeds buy-in from players. And to the players' credit, they're buying into whatever Doug Novak is teaching them because they will not quit. And as Mississippi State people, we can respect that. You got to have a little character to wear maroon and white in your life, man. You do. We might get beat every now and again, but we're not going to quit. We're not going to quit. It's pretty crazy, man. And again, outstanding effort. And again, salute the ladies and thank them for their contributions. And look forward to more wins down the stretch. Now, all of a sudden, starting to feel a little bit bullish about the Lady Bulldogs. All right, final segment of the show brought to you by Portico. You know our good friend Brooks Bryan. Brooks wore the M over S. Still wears it in his personal life. You see Brooks around, chances are he's got on a Mississippi State insignia somewhere, whether it be on his chest or his hat. But Brooks is now part of a great group that's bringing a great residential development to Starkville. I like Brooks. I would do business with Brooks. I trust Brooks. I also love Starkville. I tell people all the time, I moved here from Mississippi State. I moved here to be closer to work. I didn't know what a great place Starkville was until I got here. Because it's a great place on game day, and it's a great place every day. I love it here. The people are great. Nothing moves too slow or too fast around here. We just kind of move along at the right pace. I get a little impatient at times, but the reality of it is I love it here. And I'm here, I guess, until they put me in a nursing home. But if I was moving to Starkville now, I'd move to Portico just because of the convenience to campus. And again, it's tucked away. It's a little bit farther away than you're not on the busy side of campus. It's 1.1 miles away. You turn off of 82 on a 12, take the very first right. That's Pat Station Road. You go through a little stop sign there, boom, Portico. You can ride around and go check it out yourself next time you're in town. And I'll be honest with you, if you're looking to buy in Starkville and your real estate agent hasn't mentioned Portico, you need to ask him about it. Now, new construction going on now. Phase 1 completely sold out. And here's the deal, though. You're catching Portico at a good time. Because rather than you having to say, okay, well, this works, I'm excited about this, but I wish there was this. See, that's the thing, is because you're getting on board now, before the houses are constructed, you can pick your lot, and you can have a say in picking out those house plans. And so you kind of get more of what you want. So instead of you having to kind of make the best of it, you can help design the best of it. Perfect. Perfect timing for you. Give Brooks a call or text today at 601-416-8075. Again, 601-416-8075. Listen, you owe him a text or a call because you want to do business, but also, too, you got to thank him for robbing that home run against Washington that sent us to Omaha. He's a Bulldog through and through. He'll do you right. All right, let's talk a little recruiting. Over the weekend, we pick up a commitment from Gabriel Placencia. We've talked about him on the show. From College of San Mateo. It's a junior college out in California. He was a guy, too, that got some looks, but not any offers out of high school, so he decided to make a run at JUCO. It's like, hey, I'm going to bet on myself rather than be a preferred walk-on somewhere and say, hey, listen, I'm going to go out here and kick and see what we can do. He's originally from Oakland, California, so he's coming a ways now. Now, Cole's professional kicking camps, these guys have kind of been watching the guy for a while. Longest field goal in his history, 51. Kicked 6 in a game, 14 in a single season, and had 99 points in a game. Interesting. Now, here's the rest of that story, too. There are a lot of people that get, there are a lot of people out there that are rating kids, right? And when it comes to kickers, it's just a different deal, right? It's just a different deal. Like, we don't really evaluate kickers. We kind of let the evaluation guys do it. But it's not one of those deals, too, where you look at it and say, okay, we're going to just take these guys' word for it. And so he's not going to have 5 stars on his 247 or his composite ranking. Kickers don't rate that high. Now, Chris Saylor, who is considered by many to be the number 1 evaluator of kickers in the country, has given Gabe a 5-star designation and ranked him 30th in the country. Now, are there 35-star kickers in the country? Well, according to Chris's way of doing things, yes. And so I share that with you just to kind of put some context with this. And so what a 5-star means for Chris, because there can be 100 of these guys. It's not like at our network where you kind of limit it. I know with Scout we used to do the top 50 players. as 5 stars, and then the next 250 were 4. So here's how Chris does it. So a 5-star kicker is an FBS freshman year starter and a guy worthy of a scholarship. But that's not the highest designation. You could actually go to a 6-star kicker with Chris Saylor, which is an FBS Power 5 freshman year starter and a scholarship pick. And so to kind of put that in perspective, Gabe earns the second highest designation by the best kicking analyst in the country, right? Because a lot of people see 5 stars and know what that means, and all of a sudden they can look at his 247 profile and say, hey, I thought he was a 5-star. Well, we didn't rate him a 5-star. Different rating system. And Chris Saylor is the guy that picks the kickers for the All-American Bowl that was played this past weekend. Now, here is what Chris had to say. Gabe is a very talented junior college kicking and punting prospect. He is big, tall, strong, and athletic. The lefty, that's right, he's a left-footed kicker, does a great job on field goal. Gets the ball up well and easily has 55-plus yard range. His kickoffs are strong, college ready. Drives the ball into the end zone with a 4.0 plus hang time. That's pretty cool. We can cover that. Also a strong punter. Gabe punts for a nice combination of distance and hang time. He'll be able to compete at this spot on the next level. A competition that thrives under pressure. A competitor that thrives under pressure. Gabe continues to show steady improvement each time we see him. He has all the tools to take his game to the next level and dominate. I really like his all-around upside. Look for Gabe to compete with the best of the best at Vegas in January, turning heads of college coaches. He's a fine young man who's always a great pleasure to work with. Strong junior college prospect. Offer now. So, and here's the thing, too. It looks like that Chris has seen him 2 or 3 times. So it's not like one of these deals where one guy shows up and has a good day. This is a guy that's been evaluated multiple times, again, by the nation's best kicking analyst. So what does that mean for Mississippi State? I'm actually going to write that story a little bit later today. But the reality of it is we struggled on special teams. You might have noticed we weren't very good on special teams. We were not consistent with punts. We certainly weren't consistent with field goals. Scott Goodman, I thought, when healthy, did a really good job on kickoffs. Now, I don't know what Matt Brock's telling the guy to do, but he put the ball in the end zone, and we had some issues, obviously, when he went down. But the reality of it is we needed to upgrade ourselves basically in all kicking disciplines, and we needed to add competition to the room. This is not the only kicker that we're going to add in this class. Now, this is a preferred walk-on opportunity right now. If somebody offers him a scholarship, I guess things could change. But he's going to be here in a week. I think they're all reporting this weekend. And so it's important to kind of understand how that's going to shake loose. Still expecting to add a true field goal kicker. That's not to say that Gabe won't compete. I think Gabe probably is a guy that competes in all 3, as a kickoff guy, a punting guy, and as a place kicker. I kind of like the idea of a left-footed punter. Because the rotation's different. Guys aren't used to seeing that. Sometimes that leads to muffs. But I like the fact that we're being aggressive with specialists, and we're not done. We're going to have some more specialists join the class. I've told you guys before. Like what I'm hearing about Massimo Biscardi from Coastal Carolina. Of course, he has not announced a decision yet. We think that's probably any day now. And then you'll probably see another kicker, punter, kickoff guy, somebody that'll compete at one of those 3 kicking disciplines, join the class. So I think when it's all said and done, you're going to have 3 new kickers join the class this spring. And, of course, you'll always have some guys walk on in fall camp and try to make the squad. So we had the kicker tryouts among the student body. Didn't work out. So we've gone out and recruited some guys to come in to add some depth and competition at the position. Of course, Nolan McCord still here, and he's a young guy too. And a lot of people are like, "Oh my gosh," he was put in a situation that he wasn't quite ready for. I know he'll tell you he was, but that is a difficult deal, especially that kick at Arkansas. We didn't even get a great snap either. But the reality of it is just like we talked about before. You're not going to want Mike Leach to hang around just because he's funny. If he doesn't win enough games, you're going to want him fired. And this is how the sausage is made. We got to go out and find some guys that can improve where we're deficient. And I think special teams cost us 2 to 3 games this year. I think we can all be honest about that. even in hindsight. You know what? We got to upgrade things. We got to make a change. So this is a step in that direction. So Gabriel Placencia, we will have more with him over at genespage.com. Be sure to go check that out. But we are not done with kickers. We're not done. So be prepared for that. So when you're in the Facebook groups and you've got non-Boneyard listeners in there kind of sharing their take on things, you can be the voice of reason and information and say, you know what, no, this is incorrect. We're actually going to add probably 2 more kickers. So we'll have Placencia, and then we're going to add a couple more guys to add more competition in the room. I want you to be the most knowledgeable members of the Bulldog fan base. And when you go have that water cooler talk with everybody, it's like, oh, we got a 5-star kicker. Well, yeah, that's true, but he's not technically a 5-star. And actually with Chris Sauer's rating system, a 6-star is the highest designation. You be able to go out there and hold your own. You know, you don't have to be a casual fan. You can be the most knowledgeable Bulldog fan that your friends know. That's what I hope we do here at the Boneyard. So we'll have more recruiting stuff on Wednesday, and business is about to pick up. So we're going to have some official visitors later this week. Tremont Shorts, an offensive line prospect from East Tennessee State, a grad transfer, a guy that was an outstanding player at East Tennessee State, expected to visit us this week. And we'll have a couple more this weekend. You got 3 weeks. 3 weeks. The sprint starts on Friday. The dead period lifts on the 13th, and here we go. Start getting official visitors back on campus, and you've basically got 3 weekends to get it done. Got to put some things together, and as you guys are well aware too, you know, we've got transfers that are going to be rolling in now too. Like Marcus Banks is a guy we still feel okay with. You know, Miami's still in touch with him a little bit, but we kind of get the sense they're kind of recognizing the fact that he's not going to come. So he's supposed to be here this weekend, so he's scheduled to report, and so hopefully we'll have all this lined up for you guys, and then you guys report this weekend. Kind of get their locker set up and get their housing settled and begin spring classes. That's an exciting part of this. So there will be some new Bulldogs between now and then. And be sure to keep up with me and Paul Jones over at genespage.com because we will keep you apprised of what we're hearing. And again, I've belabored the point with you guys. We got to get a safety or 2. Got to get an offensive lineman. Got to get a couple receivers. And would love to get an edge if we can get them. Right? Feel pretty good about everything else. But there are going to be some new names. They're going to make your football team a better program in 2022. So if you want to know the latest updates on that, visit us at genespage.com. We're also about 3 weeks, 3+ weeks from Dogpile finally being shipped from the printer to the publisher. So as I've shared with you guys before, those books will be shipped from the printer to the publisher, and then I will go on site and I will sign your books, and then the publisher will then mail them out to you. That's how that works. And so I'll keep you apprised. The last couple of weeks, the ship date is held firm. Now, that's not to say that as we get closer, it couldn't move up a couple days or move back a couple days. That's happened a couple times for us. I know when we did Alpha Dogs, it got here, I think, 4 days early. So I don't make any promises, especially with the national paper shortage. So be prepared for that. So I would feel pretty confident saying this is book release month, and hopefully you guys will have it on or around February 1st. And so plenty of time to read it before college baseball season begins. Get you all fired up about the Diamond Dogs of 2022. So looking forward to you guys having the book, enjoying the book, and cherishing it for many, many years. Also got my reports in for December from the fine folks at Deep South Pout that handle the Stark Villain shirt, and you guys bought a bunch of shirts, and thank you for that. If you want to join the Cool Kids Club, go to starkvillains.com, and you can get your T-shirt and hoodies lined up today. Different colors, different styles, a lot of options there. They did better than I could have ever hoped for. Did a great job with those shirts, and you guys keep buying them. Some months we sell a few, some months we sell a lot, but you guys continue to buy them, so I appreciate that, and please feel free to outfit your entire family in Stark Villain gear. If you haven't ordered the book, go to dogpilethebook.com. You can order today. And while you're there, you can get copies of Flim Flam, Stark Villains, and Alpha Dog. It amazes me that how many copies of Flim Flam we still continue to sell. I mean, honestly, it does. Even when I go to book signings, it's like people are getting Flim Flam for the first time. I'm thinking, okay, cool. The book's 4.5 years old, and we're still selling it. And so that's pretty remarkable. So you can find all those books there. Blooms of Oleander is a book that I self-published, the only book that I self-published, contrary to popular belief on Twitter. You can find that at Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, Books A Million. That's Blooms of Oleander, the softer side of Steve Robertson. And then there's some stuff in there that's kind of in your face too. Or your local bookstore can order that for you as well. So be sure and check all that out. Thanks so much for all your support of the books, the merch, the website. I got so much to be grateful for, man. You guys are so awesome to me, and I thank you for it. But until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.
What's the big deal?
Where can you get pizza, bread twists, specialty chicken, and more for just $5.99 each?
Is it at Domino's?
He hands off hand-tossed pizza and a marble cookie brownie. He's going!
There's a lot of variety on the radio and at Domino's too, where you can
Mix and match 2 or more for $5.99 each at Domino's.
2-item minimum. Pan pizza, bone-in wings, and bread bowls will be extra. Ask for this limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary.